Dear students, welcome to this module on role of vitamins and minerals in exercise. Micronutrients, namely the vitamins and minerals, play an important role in energy production, hemoglobin synthesis, maintenance of bone health, adequate immune functions and protection of body against oxidative damages. They assist with synthesis and repair of muscle tissue during recovery from exercise and also protect from injuries. Exercises stress many of these metabolic pathways where micronutrients are very much essential and required, and exercise training may result in muscle biochemical adaptations that increase the micronutrient needs. Routine exercise may also increase the turnover and loss of these micronutrients from the body, especially the vitamins and minerals. As a result, the greater intake for micronutrients may be required, especially to cover the increased needs for building, repair and maintenance of lean body mass in athletes especially. You will be able to understand the role of different vitamins and minerals in exercise. Study the process of vitamin and mineral utilization during the process of exercise. Now, if we look into the vitamin D requirements, vitamin D is required for an adequate calcium absorption, regulation of serum calcium and phosphorus levels, and also promotion of bone health, which is very important for an athlete during an event. Vitamin D also regulates the development and homeostasis of the nervous system and also the skeletal muscle. Athletes who live at northern institutes or who train primarily indoors throughout the year, such as the gymnasts and figure skaters, are at risk for poor vitamin D status, especially if they do not consume foods fortified with vitamin D or also the sunshine. These athletes would benefit from the vitamin D foods at the DRI levels which are recommended for which is adequate. And also, in addition to vitamin D levels, the special concern is for the antioxidants, which are the vitamin C, E, beta carotene and selenium. The antioxidant nutrients, as we all know, are the oxidation processes that are protected and are reversed. Vitamin C, E, beta carotene and selenium play important role from the oxidative damage that happens to the cells and tissues. Because exercise can increase the oxygen consumption by 10 to 15 folds with the normal person, it has been hypothesized that long-term exercise produces a constant T-oxidative stress on the muscles and other cells, leading to lipid peroxidation of the membranes. Although short-term exercise may increase levels of lipid peroxide byproducts, habitual exercise has been shown to result in an augmented antioxidant system and also reduce lipid peroxidation. Thus, a well-trained exercise may depend fully on the antioxidant nutrients, and evidences on antioxidant supplements enhance the physical performance of the athletes. Athletes at greater risk for the poor antioxidant intakes are those following a low-fat diets, restricting the energy intakes or limiting the dietary intakes of the fruits and other forms of fiber-rich foods. The evidence that a combination of all these fiber-rich foods, there is little evidence that antioxidant supplements enhance the physical performance. Athletes are at great risk for poor antioxidant intakes are those who follow a low-fat diet, restrict energy intakes or limit dietary intakes for fruits, vegetables which are seasonally available, and the whole grams and grains which are good sources for fiber as well. The evidence that a combination of antioxidants or single antioxidants such as vitamin E may be helpful in reducing the inflammation and muscle soreness during the recovery process from intense exercise remains unclear. Although the ergogenic potential of vitamin E concerning the physical performance has not been clearly documented. But however, the endurance of the athletes may have a higher need for these vitamins. Indeed, vitamin E reduces the lipid peroxidation during aerobic endurance exercises and have a limited effect with strength training, and may alternate exercise induced DNA damage and hence enhance the recovery process in certain active individuals during the exercise. However, more research is needed to know these factors. Athletes should be advised not to exceed the tolerable upper intake levels UL for antioxidants, because higher dosage of these antioxidants could be pro-oxidative with potential negative effects too. And hence, when we know about these vitamin C, which is a water soluble food supplements, do seem to have the ergogenic effect, the energy giving effect, if the diet provides adequate amount of this particular nutrient, vitamin C. Because strenuous and the prolonged exercise may have shown to increase the need for vitamin C especially. The physical performance can be compromised with marginal vitamin C status or deficiency. Athletes who participate in habitual, prolonged, strenuous exercise should consume at least 1000 milligrams of vitamin C daily from the sumptuous citrus fruits which are available seasonally. And when we move on to what about the vitamin E requirements, the antioxidant function of vitamin E deserves special mention here, as the evidence for relationship between physical activity and oxidative stress is accumulating rapidly. Cells are equipped with many mechanisms such as the antioxidant vitamin C and E and to defend against damage by free radicals, but in some situations these defenses can be overwhelmed. Prolonged high intensity activity enhances the production of damaging free radicals in the body. The consequences may be as minor as temporary inflammation or an extensive damage to the DNA, which happens in hopes of preventing the oxidative damage to the muscles. Many athletes and active people are taking mega doses of vitamin E, even though studies examining vitamin E supplementations are lacking. One study has reported that 300 milligrams of vitamin E daily reduces the exercise induced oxidative damage in the cyclists. However, clearly the more research is needed on this, but it automatically has the antioxidative role that is very much essential from this antioxidant rich sources of fruits and vegetables. These are the vitamin requirements during exercise. And when we look into the mineral requirements, minerals such as calcium, iron, zinc, magnesium are all very much needed. The primary mineral low in the diet of the athletes, especially the female athletes, are calcium, iron, zinc, magnesium, and low intake of these minerals over the period of time are often due to energy restriction or avoidance of animal based products. However, if we look into the calcium requirements, calcium, as we all know, is an especially important nutrient, micronutrient, mineral for growth, maintenance, repair of bones, tissues, maintenance of blood calcium levels, regulation of muscle contraction, nerve conduction, and normal blood clotting mechanisms. Inadequate dietary calcium and vitamin D will automatically increase the risk of low bone mineral density, which will be a great problem to an athlete and especially during exercise. And if energy intakes are low, the dairy products and other calcium rich foods are usually inadequate in the daily menu or eliminated from the diet very much easily. And the menstrual dysfunction is also present because of these deficiencies. Supplementation with food sources of calcium and vitamin D should be determined very much after nutritional assessment. Current recommendations for athletes or persons during exercise is with disordered eating and amenorrhea and risk for early osteoporosis are 1500 milligram of elemental calcium and 400 to 800 international units of vitamin D per day is very much recommended during all these conditions. And now when we talk about another vital nutrient micromineral, which is iron, iron is required for the formation of oxygen carrying proteins, hemoglobin and myoglobin, and for enzymes involved in the energy production. Oxygen carrying capacity, which is very much essential during an exercise for endurance exercises, as well as normal function of the nervous, behavioral and immune systems. Iron depletion with low iron stores is one of the most prevalent nutritional deficiencies observed among the athletes, especially involved in different sports. Iron deficiency with or without anemia can impair muscle function and limit the work capacity. Iron requirements for endurance athletes, especially the distance runners, are increased by approximately 70% than the normal athletes. Athletes who are vegetarians or regular blood donors should aim for more iron-rich foods with greater intake for iron, that is more than that is recommended for the recommended dietary allowances, which is more than 8 milligrams for men and women respectively. The physically active young women, especially those who engage in endurance activities such as distance running, are prone to iron deficiency. Physical activity can affect the iron status in several ways. For one thing, iron losses in sweat can contribute to iron deficiency, even though the sweat of trained athletes contain less iron than the sweat of others. The other adaptive process that happens in the body. For another reason, the red blood cells destruction can lead to iron loss. Blood cells are squashed when body tissues such as the soles of the feet make high impact contact with an unyielding surface such as the ground. Perhaps more significant than these losses are deficits that is caused by poor iron absorption in some athletes and high demands of muscles for iron containing molecules of the mitochondria and the muscle proteins, which is more essential during these endurance activity of the athletes and other persons during the sport events. Especially if we look into the myoglobin, in addition, physical activity may cause small blood losses through this digestive tract, and at least in some athletes. Iron deficiency affects these athletes and especially the sports persons due to various factors, and young women than men are more affected and physically active people are no exception. Habitually, low intake of iron-rich foods and iron losses may be the reason for such iron deficiencies. Even short-term moderate aerobic activity has been shown to compromise the women's iron status. Now, if we look in detail on the iron recommendations for athletes, the best strategy concerning the iron depends on the individual. Many menstruating women probably border on iron deficiency even without the iron losses incurred by physical activity. Active teens of both sexes, the male and the female gender, also have high iron needs because they are growing and they have to meet the needs. Especially for women and teens, than the prescribed supplements, more is needed. To correct deficiencies is the first need, but medical testing should guide the decisions on supplementation, but especially through the food sources. Now, having known about the iron, the other micromineral which is essential is zinc. Zinc plays a role in the growth, building and repair of muscle tissues, energy production, and also seeks to maintain the immune status. Diets low in animal proteins, especially the lean meat, high in fiber and vegetarian diets are particularly associated with decreased zinc intake. Zinc status has been shown to directly affect the thyroid hormone functions and its levels, the basal metabolic rate, and also protein use, which in turn can negatively affect the health and the physical performance of an exerciser. The survey data indicate that a large number of North Americans have zinc deficiencies that is very much below the recommended allowances. Athletes, particularly the females, are at risk with this zinc deficiency when they are particularly vegetarians. The impact of low zinc on zinc status is too difficult to measure because clear assessment criteria have not been yet established, and plasma zinc concentrations may not reflect the changes that is happening in the whole body zinc status. Decreases in the cardiorespiratory function, muscle strength and endurance have been noted with poor zinc status in the body. The upper limit for zinc is 40 milligrams. Athletes should be cautioned against single dose zinc supplements because they often exceed this amount, and unnecessary zinc supplementations may lead to lower the HDL cholesterol, the high density lipoproteins, which are said to be the good cholesterols, and nutrient imbalances may happen and interfere with the absorption of other nutrients such as iron and copper. Hence, care must be taken in supplementation of zinc too. Further, the benefits of zinc supplementation to physical performance has to be established in detail. And now moving on to the next mineral to see about magnesium also plays a variety of roles in cellular metabolism, especially the glycolysis, fat and protein metabolism, and regulates the membrane stability and also the neuromuscular, cardiovascular, immunity and hormonal functions. Magnesium deficiencies usually impair the endurance performance of the exerciser by increasing the oxygen requirements to complete such maximal exercises. Athletes in weight class and body conscious sports such as wrestling, gymnastics and tennis have been reported to consume inadequate dietary magnesium. Athletes should be educated on the good food sources of magnesium, and in athletes with low magnesium status, supplementation might be beneficial, and especially through the food sources. And having seen about magnesium, the other microminerals which are needed are sodium, chloride and potassium. Sodium is a critical electrolyte, particularly for athletes with heavy sweat losses. Many endurance athletes will require much more than the upper limit for sodium and chloride. Sports drinks containing sodium and potassium as well as carbohydrate are recommended for athletes, especially in endurance events that is happening for more than 2 hours. Potassium is also another important mineral for fluid and electrolyte balance. Nerve transmission and active transport mechanisms during intense exercise will help the plasma potassium concentrations that tend to decline to lesser degrees that sodium would do. A diet rich in variety of fresh vegetables and fruits which are seasonally available, along with combination of nuts, seeds and dairy foods, lean meats, whole grains and grams is usually considered adequate to meet all these mineral requirements and also to maintain the potassium status among these athletes and the exercise performers. In addition to these vitamins and minerals, we also have to know the fluids and its electrolytes that supports the activities during the exercise activity. The body relies on watery fluids as the medium for all of its life supporting chemistry in the body. Its needs for water surpasses its need for any other nutrient. If the body loses too much water, its chemistry becomes compromised. Obviously, the body loses water via sweat, breathing costs water too, and also we see that the roots are significant and dehydration becomes a threat always to an exercise performer. Dehydration's first symptom is fatigue. As we all know, a water loss of even 1 to 2% in the body weight can reduce a person's capacity to do the much required the muscular work. With water loss of about 7%, a person is even likely to collapse, and hence we have to be very careful on monitoring the fluid requirements in the human body. When we look into the fluid losses via sweat, recalling that the working muscles produce heat as a byproduct of the adenosine triphosphate ATP breakdown, the body cools itself by sweating. Each liter of sweat is distributed among 600 calories of heat, preventing a rise in the body temperature of almost 10 degrees Celsius. The body routes through the different parts and routes its blood supply through the capillaries just under the skin, and the skin secretes sweat to evaporate and cool the skin, and thus this underlying mechanism in the blood that is happening has the flow back to cool the deeper body chambers too. And also it may reflect in two conditions, namely hyperthermia and hypothermia. If we look into hyperthermia, in hot humid weather, sweat doesn't evaporate as well because the surrounding air is already laden with water. Body heat builds up too and triggers the maximum sweating. But without sweat evaporation, light cooling takes place. In such conditions, if we see, the active people during exercise must take precautions to prevent the heat stroke. The only way to prevent the heat stroke is to drink enough fluid before and during the activity, and rest in shade, and during the activity when tired, wear lightweight clothing that allows the evaporation process to take place. Hence, the danger of rubber or heavy suits that supposedly promote weight loss during physical activity promote profuse sweating and prevent sweat evaporation and invite heat strokes. If you ever experience any of these symptoms, what we should do is we have to list in the margin, stop the activity, sip fluids, seek the shade and ask for help. Heat stroke can be fatal too, especially the young people often die of heat strokes, and these symptoms need attention. Also, in the other condition which we term as hypothermia, in cold weather, if we see, hypothermia or low body temperature can pose as serious threat as heat stroke in conditions of hyperthermia. Inexperienced slow runners participating in long races on cold or wet chilly days are especially vulnerable to this condition called as hypothermia. Slow runners who produce little heat can become too cooled if clothing is inadequate. Early symptoms of hypothermia includes shivering and euphoria, and as body temperature continues to fall down, shivering may stop and weakness, disorientation may happen, and apathy may occur to the person. Each of these symptoms can impair a person's ability to exercise and act against a further drop in the body temperature. Even in cold weather, however, the activity is body should still sweat and still needs fluids. The fluids should be warm or at least at room temperature to help protect from this condition of hypothermia to the body. Now, we will have to know about the fluid replacements via the hydration process. Endurance athletes can easily lose 1 to 1.5 liters or more of fluids during each hour of the activity during the exercise. To prepare for fluid losses, a person must hydrate before activity to replace fluid losses, and also the person must rehydrate during and after activity as well. Athletes, if we see, who are preparing for competitions are often advised to drink extra amounts of fluids in the days immediately beforehand, especially if they are still training. The extra water is not stored in the body at all, but drinking extra water ensures maximum hydration in the body at the start of the event. Some crunches and athletes withhold the maximum water during practice because they mistakenly believe that the body adapts to use less water and this will somehow be beneficial. This false and dangerous idea has caused some athletes their health and some their lives. Full hydration is imperative for every athlete both during training and during competition. The athlete who is well trained and who arrives at an event slightly dehydrated arrives with a disadvantage. Drinking even water does not harm, may have, but proves to be protective. And now we will look into see what are the electrolyte losses and how these can be replaced. When a person sweats, small amounts of electrolytes, the electrically discharged minerals such as sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium are lost from the body gradually along with the water. Losses are greatest in beginners. Training improves the electrolyte retention too. To replenish the lost electrolytes, a person ordinarily needs to eat a regular diet that meets energy and nutrient needs. In extremely demanding endurance events lasting for more than 3 hours, electrolyte replacements may be needed too. Electrolyte or salt tablets always cause water to flow out of the tissues easily into the gastrointestinal tract, and also see that the electrolyte flow happens easily, and potassium losses irritates the stomach and cause vomiting. Thus, these tablets can worsen dehydration and impair the performance in several ways, and hence we should be careful to monitor the electrolyte losses and also see that the replacement happens without any damages. As a conclusion to this module on the role of vitamins and minerals, we see that ample and balanced fluid, nutrient dense foods with abundant vitamins and minerals in a normal way is required to support the physical activity during an exercise. The person who wants to exercise very much physically will apply accurate nutrition knowledge along with dedication to rigorous training that will also support the needs. A diet that provides ample fluid and consists of variety of nutrient dense seasonal foods in quantities to meet energy needs will certainly enhance not only the athletic performance but the overall health as well. Training and genetics being equal would win a competition. The athlete who habitually consumes the inadequate amounts of needed nutrients, or the competitor who arrives at the event with a long history of full nutrient stores and will meet automatically the metabolic needs of the human body. Thank you.